Welcome back to The Explainer. So glad you're here. If you've ever found yourself just staring blankly at rows and rows of spreadsheet data, completely overwhelmed trying to figure out how to connect the dots, well, you're absolutely in the right place. Today, we're mastering one of the most famous, beloved, and let's be real, sometimes deeply misunderstood functions in all of Excel. We are talking about VLOOKUP, or as I like to call it, your ultimate data matchmaker.
Right, let's just get into it. Picture this. You've got an order sheet staring at you with hundreds of product codes but zero product names or prices. Then, on a totally different tab, there's your master inventory list. Are you really still clicking back and forth, hitting Control F, copying, pasting, and just repeating that soul-crushing cycle for every single row? Let's be honest, manual data entry isn't just mind-numbingly tedious, it is a massive breeding ground for human error. Why waste hours of your life when you could literally automate the whole shebang in a matter of seconds? Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll meet your data matchmaker. Then, we'll break down the anatomy of the formula. After that, we'll jump into real-world lookups and locks, followed by troubleshooting and missing values. And finally, we'll look beyond VLOOKUP to XLOOKUP. Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, Meet Your Data Matchmaker.
So what does it actually do? Simply put, VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup. I want you to think of it like an automated matchmaker, or, maybe an old school phone book. If you know a person's name, what do? You scan vertically down the list until you find them, and then you just look straight across that exact same row to grab their phone number. VLOOKUP does exactly that. It searches vertically down the very first column of a table to find a matching value like a product code, and once it finds it, it slides over to return info from another column in that exact same row.
To really get this, let's break down its thought process into 4 totally logical steps. When you press enter, the formula first goes, okay, what value am I searching for? Once it knows that, step 2 is scanning straight down the first column of your reference table. Step 3 kicks in when it successfully finds the matching row. And finally, step 4, it just travels horizontally across that row to fetch whatever value you asked for. It's really that simple, an elegant, perfectly predictable 4-step progression. Moving right along to Section 2, Anatomy of the Formula. All right, don't panic. This string of text right here is what usually scares people off. Equals VLOOKUP A2, $F2, $H10, 3, false. I totally get it. If you aren't a massive data nerd, seeing all those random commas and dollar signs can definitely induce a little anxiety. But seriously, don't let it intimidate you. A formula is really just a sentence. It's just a simple set of instructions you're feeding to the computer. Every single VLOOKUP sentence requires 4 distinct pieces of info, which we call arguments. Let's decode its DNA really quick. First up is the lookup value. This is just the thing you want to find. Second is the table array. That's your reference table, or the phone book where the answer lives. Third is the column index number, basically meaning, once I find the match, which column holds the answer you want me to bring back? And the fourth argument is the range lookup, which is just Excel's quirky way of asking, hey, do you want me to find an exact match or just something close enough? Now, the absolute most crucial part here is how we handle that third argument, the column index number. When you tell VLOOKUP which column to pull from, you absolutely do not use the worksheet's letters at the top, like A, B, or C. Instead, you just count from the left side of the specific table you've highlighted. So if your table has product code, product, and unit price, then product code is column 1, product is column 2, and unit price is column 3. It's entirely relative to the boundaries of the table you chose. Easy, right? Okay, enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty with Section 3, Real-World Lookups and Locks. This brilliantly illustrates exactly what your reference table looks like. Just imagine this is parked completely out of the way on a separate worksheet. We've got our product codes starting with P101 for a notebook at $8.50, all the way down to P104 for a folder. This right here is your static inventory list. It is your ultimate source of truth. And now watch the magic happen. We've got a blank order table, you type in P101, and boom! The formula instantly reaches over to that reference table, finds P101, looks at column 2, and yanks in the word notebook. Then it does another quick lookup to column 3 to instantly populate that $8.50 unit price. Honestly, it is so satisfying to watch. You can drag that formula down 1,000 rows, and it will perfectly populate everything for every single order instantly. But hey, remember that fourth argument we talked about, the match type? You have to tell Excel whether to use false for an exact match or true for an approximate match. Listen carefully. For the vast majority of your tasks, almost always use false. You want an exact match when you're dealing with product codes, invoices, or employee IDs. I mean, employee E101 is a completely different person than E102, right? You only really use true for approximate ranges, like figuring out where a student's score falls in a grading bracket. If you're ever in doubt, just stick with false. Now here is the absolute classic rookie mistake. When you drag that beautiful new formula down to apply it to your 1,000 rows of data, Excel naturally shifts the reference window down as well. Suddenly, your table starts looking in row 3, then row 4, and pretty soon your whole data set breaks. The fix? Absolute references. You literally just have to lock the reference table with dollar signs. Typing $F, $2, $each, $10 tells Excel, hey, listen to me. No matter where I copy this formula, do not ever move the location of my reference table. Of course, even with perfectly locked tables, things don't always go to plan, which brings us to Section 4, troubleshooting and missing values. First off, let's just normalize errors, okay? Everyone gets them. Here's a quick cheat sheet for treating them like solvable little puzzles. If you see #NA, that just means the lookup value is entirely missing from your reference table. Maybe the product code was typed wrong, who knows? If you see #REFAT, that means your column number exceeds the table width, like you asked for column 4, but your table only has 3 columns. And what if you got the wrong result entirely? Well, you probably used true for an approximate match by accident, so just swap that to false.
But what if you actually expect some missing values? Say you're checking a list of VIP customers against a master list, and it's totally fine if some people aren't on it. You definitely don't want an ugly #NA error ruining the vibe of your clean spreadsheet. This is where you wrap your formula in the IERROR function. By typing =IERROR, then your VLOOKUP, comma, quote, not found, quote, you're instructing Excel to gracefully display the words not found instead of throwing a confusing error code. It is an absolute lifesaver.
Now, as wonderful as VLOOKUP is, we have to admit it is a legacy function, and it comes with some pretty strict limitations. First, the value you're searching for must absolutely reside in the first column of your selected table. It literally cannot look backwards to the left. Second, if you have duplicate lookup values, it just stops at the first one it finds and completely ignores the rest. And finally, extra spaces or inconsistent data types, like a number accidentally stored as text, will completely break it.
And because of those strict limitations, Microsoft eventually decided it was time for an upgrade. Let's pivot to Section 5, beyond VLOOKUP to XLOOKUP. Look, if VLOOKUP is a reliable, trusty old sedan, XLOOKUP is the shiny new sports car, available in newer versions of Excel. It directly solves almost all of VLOOKUP's biggest headaches. XLOOKUP doesn't need you to sit there and count column index numbers. It can look left or right, completely freeing you from that annoying first column rule. It defaults to an exact match, so you can stop typing false all the time. And it even has a built-in not found argument, so you can wave goodbye to IFERROR. It is incredibly powerful.
But here's the fascinating reality. Despite XLOOKUP's obvious, glaring superiority, VLOOKUP remains absolutely everywhere in the corporate world. I mean, it's baked into millions of existing workbooks globally. So my question to you is this. Are you ready to abandon VLOOKUP entirely for XLOOKUP? Or will the legacy of the original data matchmaker keep it alive in your spreadsheets for years to come? Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today. Keep practicing those lookups, and I'll catch you next time.